All right, welcome back to Web3 DJs. We have a very special episode for you. One of the dopest projects in the NFT game right now, Parallel Alpha. We have Mr. Gon from Parallel Alpha. He's a founder and game designer for the project. I'm so happy to have you on. How's it going, Mr. Gon?
It's going great. Yeah, it's going great. You guys?
Good.
Yeah,
so I was just looking at OpenSea, and I didn't realize you guys are number 20 on OpenSea's list right here. So I just want to name a couple of these projects that you guys are above here. So Parallel Alpha, number 20. So the only thing above you guys, I mean, I don't know how they're not calling you guys a blue chip project. If you look at, just under CryptoKitties, the only other ones are, kind of what we hear every day. But it's pretty impressive what you guys have done with the project.
And about art blocks, VFriends.
Yeah. People don't know. Also, this is just my opinion. I think the art is the dopest in the whole NFT art game. And that was the first thing that drew me to this project when I started looking. But I mean, I've listened to some of your guys' podcasts, and the people that you have and the team that you've constructed is A+. It's without a doubt one of the top projects out there. So congratulations on all your success. I'm sure that things in this last year have got a little bit crazy, but we just want to start out and just find out who you are. So how did you end up getting involved with this project?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, thank you. Thanks for all the kind words. And I mean, it is crazy, the OpenSea stuff. I don't really look at that. I'm kind of a little bit further removed from the NFT side of things, although I'm obviously aware. But how did I get started? Well, the whole thing actually just started because me and a couple of my buddies were playing games in the pandemic to sort of keep in touch. Sure. Rather than just like jump on Zoom calls or whatever, we'd play, I don't know, Call of Duty or Fortnite or Apex Legends or whatever, and chat through those games. And we're all technologists. We all kind of work in adjacent fields. And we decided like, hey, why don't we try and make a game and see how that goes. And so we kind of put our heads together. And around the same time, I know that our I guess now art director, Oscar Marr, was kind of toying with the idea of NFTs. And Kalos, who is, I guess, like our fearless leader, had the brilliant idea of, hey, what if we'd merge those two things together? Let's make a game, and involve NFTs. And at that point, he kind of called me up, and I was a amateur game designer. I spent a lot of time messing around, making mostly board games and stuff. And he was like, I know that you're super interested in games and all this stuff. Do you have any ideas that might work? And obviously because of the nature of NFTs and the fact that I'm a Magic the Gathering / Hearthstone nerd, I was like, well, let's make a card game. And then from there, he was like, okay, well, do you have any ideas? And I was like, yeah, no problem. He's like, okay, in a couple of days, we're going to present to the rest of the team your idea, and it's going to go great. And I was like, great. And then I hung up the phone, and I did not have any ideas. So it was a bunch of furious scribbles in this very notebook here, actually, that I still use. A bunch of furious scribbles about ideas, and yeah, there you go. At the end of the, when the bell rang, it actually came to me at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I woke up in the middle of the night, and at this point, my partner was pregnant, so she was furious with me. But I woke up in the middle of the night, scribbled down the idea that eventually became Parallel.
Wow, man, that is awesome. I just have to say, unfortunately, I woke up in the middle of the night last night and did not have a beautiful idea come to me. I sat awake and thought about all the money that I have lost sports betting. So, yeah, not even kidding. Literally, just last night, I was up for hours thinking about all the poor bets that I've made. But yeah, it's really interesting that you said you were a Magic the Gathering fan. One of the questions I was going to ask you is like, what is this most comparable to? Upon reading a little bit about your proposal, I know you talked about making decks and things like that. And so I was going to say it probably is closest to Magic the Gathering. Is that a correct assumption?
I mean
as opposed to like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. Those were the 3 card games that really came to mind, right?
Sure. I would say that it's somewhere between, like, on the spectrum of, um, I mean, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit different in my books, but it's somewhere in between the spectrum of, if Magic is on one side and Hearthstone is on the other, we're kind of in the middle. It's not quite as complex or slow paced as Magic, for better or worse, and it's not as sort of simple and straightforward, and I guess luck based as Hearthstone is. And no shade to any of those
Sure.
games. I mean, I'm obsessed with both of them. So, but yeah, it's somewhere in the middle there.
You know who else is obsessed with both of those games? Post Malone. I don't know if you know Post Malone, the musician. He loves
Yeah,
Magic the Gathering. So yeah, maybe we can find a way to make that sort of thing happen. Post Malone, Parallel Alpha collaboration. But yeah. So I definitely have to bring this up because Hofstra was not lying. This man has been a die-hard fan of your project since I first got into the NFT space, which is, over a year ago. Literally upon my entry, this man has not stopped telling me about the project. Anytime I've got some spare Ethereum, he's telling me this is where I should put it. I'm sure he'll love to tell his story and his experience with the project. But I have to ask, how long have you guys been in the space? Like, when was your launch?
Oh my God, you're definitely asking absolutely the wrong guy.
I mean,
I,
it's over a year, right? You're top 20 on
oh yeah.
OpenSea.
Well,
May
hold on.
20th. May
I have
20th OpenSea.
I have for alternative reasons. I have an old chat open here,
Right.
and we initially kind of came up with the idea, or at least seriously started building February of 2021.
Wow. A long time coming.
So there's some serious thought put into this and the people that you guys have. So can you explain the founder group and what the team looks like with the project and who does what?
Sure. If I miss people, they're probably going to be really pissed at me. So
That's why we like to ask, right? Put you in the
yeah,
hot seat.
exactly, putting me in the hot seat. But okay, so I'm the game designer. We have Oscar Marr, who is the art director, and he did all the initial art for the game. We have Perry. He's sort of our blockchain and dev specialist. We have Ethan, who is our designer supreme. He made the beautiful website and all of the merch and all the stuff, like basically made our stuff look good. We have, obviously, I mentioned Kalos. He is our fearless leader. He's the one who, I mean, I've known him since university. We've been good friends for a while, and he's the one that sort of put this whole thing together. We have, and then Cerebrus, who is our sort of business manager, legal expert extraordinaire, just Swiss Army man. I mean, if I ever had any kind of trouble whatsoever with anything, he's the guy that I would go to, and he always seems to sort it out. So
no, that's
and
awesome.
I believe that's the 6 of us. Yeah.
So if let's say I didn't know anything about Parallel Alpha, what would be the Cliff Notes version of what the game is and how you play it?
Oh, okay. So it is a digital card game.
Okay.
So, akin to a Magic the Gathering or a Hearthstone. The idea is basically think of a card game that you might play, and it is a digital simulation of that. And by that, I mean, it is I guess, a digital tabletop. But what it does, that most other digital card games do, is they take the idea of a card game and bring it to another level. So, if you imagine a deck of cards, rather than having only one ace of spades, with a digital card game, you could create multiple. So, you have a card that says copy this card. Now you have 2 aces of spades, or you could adjust the number. So turn a 7 of diamonds into a 6 of hearts or something, right? And that would be a lot harder to do without, say, like a second deck of cards beside you if you were playing a regular card game. And so you can do things like tear up cards, add cards, pull cards that don't even exist in the game into the game through its digital nature, basically. Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Very nice. And so what are we looking at here?
That is an intro into the different factions of Parallel. So I'll give you a little overview of the story of Parallel. Basically, it starts with uh, a vision of the future where humans have come up with an idea that they think will give them infinite renewable energy. It's an experiment. And when they run this experiment, something goes horribly awry, and it kicks off a cataclysmic event. And so, what happens, like humans do, is we sort of scatter to the wind in order to escape extinction. And you have a whole bunch of different groups of people. So you have groups that say went to colonize Mars. You have people who now live on one of Jupiter's moons. You have people who went into deep space and mine asteroids to try and survive. Of course, you have the unlucky folk who are stuck on Earth because they couldn't escape.
Sounds like me.
And then, yeah, and then you have the Shroud, and they're a group of people who got sucked into a black hole only to get spit out thousands of years later, as if no time has passed. So that's kind of the initial basis for the game, but the game itself actually takes place thousands of years later. So these groups of humans have lived apart and have evolved separately to their various environments. And it turns out that the experiment that caused the cataclysm actually worked. So what that means is now there's a bunch of infinite renewable energy on Earth, and all of these various humans, these different parallels, are coming back to Earth to claim it because they think it's their rightful claim. And as humans do, because they're all different now, they're like, well, it's mine, not yours. And so the card game is like a digital approximation of the infighting that would exist between these various groups of humans.
Very nice. And so it's like the card game. What is the goal here? Is it like a strategy? Do I want to kind of maybe take over my opponents, or is it a battle? What exactly is kind of like the goal here? How do I win? That's what I'm asking. How do I win?
Yeah. So essentially, it is a battle. You are think of them as like little skirmishes, little fights that eventually make up the war. And
Sure.
basically, you and your opponent each have a life total of 30. And the goal is to attack your opponent and get them down to 0 before they get you down to 0. And of course, easier said than done. But
Sure.
yeah, and then through various cards, there's a whole bunch of mechanics that you can use to form a strategy. You build a deck coming into the game, and then you kind of know what your card makeup is, and your opponent has their own deck that they've built that will be different from yours, potentially. And you kind of just face off and see whose deck is better, whose luck is better, et cetera, et cetera.
And I was going to say, if you want to really deep dive, hit this podcast up because they go in depth about how the art was created, some of the people that are involved in it, how they're thinking about the game. It's pretty sweet. As I think about this, I'm like, how do you put this together? Because it's a very thought out story. And then when you're thinking, okay, let's build an NFT, like where did you guys start? Like how did this whole thing get put together?
Okay, well, I mean, we were lucky enough to, like I said, we were friends prior, and we had worked in startups before, and one of those startups was, dipped into the crypto sphere, and so we had a bit of knowledge, or they had a bit of knowledge, I should say. Again, my area of that didn't really overlap with the crypto side of things, but they had a bit of knowledge in the crypto world and what it required to, the development and the NFTs and all of that. And I mean, how do you start? Like, we just started with a WhatsApp chat and a bunch of nonsense, came up with an idea, put it towards the people that had the sort of crypto knowledge, and we're like, okay, what do we need to do here? And you kind of just take it as you go. It's an emerging tech, right? So no one really has all of the answers. They don't know how it's all gonna, like, honestly, how it's all gonna work. But really, what you've got to do is basically just start. I think, like, anyone who wants to get involved in crypto, or anything really, the worst thing you can do is just kind of sit there and hope that you can find a million reasons why what you're going to build may not work, and be like, oh, I don't know, what about this, what about that? But like, truly, your best bet is just like, let's just build a thing and see what happens.
100%. I love that right there. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, even down to like exercising, it comes down to, right? Like, okay, well, when's the last time I ate? Well, it's really hot outside. man, the gym's crowd. It's just like, just get out there and do it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I wanted to comment again. Hofstra said it earlier, but the art is fantastic. And you mentioned that this is emerging tech. To my knowledge, nobody has built out a game like this on the blockchain, let alone one that has this level of detail all the way down to the graphics. And so, where does the project stand today? Like, what is the current status of Parallel Alpha?
So, well, let me just talk about the art for a second before we get into that. I think
By
that
all means.
as far as like getting started, we're also lucky that we're friends with talented people. So Oscar Marr, who I've mentioned a couple times, was the initial artist, and he's worked on a lot of professional films and video games, and so it's no surprise that he's able to do top quality stuff. But what he also is able to do is bring in his friends who also work on these projects and have built top quality stuff. And so we're lucky enough to be starting out of the gate with artists who are well seasoned in the film and video game industry, and so that's why I think so much of it looks as good as it does. Sorry. What is the status? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the status of Parallel at the moment is the mechanics of the game are fully designed. We have a gray box client, which essentially means all of the logic is there, all the nuts and bolts, and the game is playable, but we haven't integrated the art really. We haven't done sound effects and voiceovers and all the prettying up that is required of a full-fledged game. So at the moment, that's kind of our hang up, which is we want to bring a top quality game to market, and in order to do that, we're just sort of working on all the little odds and ends. And of course, the artists are still working through getting all the cards ready for prime time.
So, how about the community? Like, what are they doing right now? Are they just building their decks in anticipation of the game? Is that kind of the...
Sure. So, well, there's a bunch of stuff. So we've every quarter or so we release what we call a pack drop, which is a certain number of packs that the community can open. They buy these packs, and you never know what's in them, right? And
Sure.
we don't. I mean, there's a rarity scale, but we don't base that rarity scale on, say the cost of the cards on OpenSea and stuff. That's why I don't really know what goes on there. It's mainly just like, you can get anything out of a pack, really. So you could get like the top tier, craziest, most expensive card on the market, or commons. Anything can kind of happen. Well, maybe not commons, because we've kind of adjusted the rarity scale there. But anything can happen when you open a pack, and I think that's one of the things that people like. But we've also worked with we stood up an organization, and now they're their own sort of entity called the Echelon Foundation, and they're responsible for the token that will be integrated in our game called Prime. And there's like a caching system in which you can create sets of parallel cards and put them into the system. And what it will do is allow you to, kind of sit on these sets and earn Prime in anticipation of the game, so that you can, go crazy once the game comes out. Buy packs, buy boosts, do whatever people do in games,
Sure.
So I'm not a card guy. That's the funniest thing about this. I bought like 40 cards just because I really liked the art. And then I was like, oh shit, how do I play this game? And then I went back in and was trying to like build my set. I was just buying things that I liked and didn't realize that I had to build a set to have this stuff go. I mean,
Sure.
Can I play if I don't
Absolutely
have a set?
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the biggest questions we get is like, how is this going to work if NFTs are, as costly as they are? How do you expect anyone to be able to build anything?
Sure.
And there's a couple things that I think people, don't really pay attention to or may not know about. The game itself will be free to play. And essentially the way that works is, like any of these other games, like Hearthstone, like Magic, you can enter in, you can earn your way into packs of what we call apparition cards. And so those cards are non-saleable, non-transferable. They have the same functions as the NFTs, but you kind of just, they're yours, and I mean, you can buy packs if you want and open them up, and so you can experience the game without delving into the NFT world. But if you want to engage in the win to earn element of the game, and earn currency, this prime currency while you're playing, you do need some NFTs. And so and it scales. The more NFTs you have in your deck, the more prime you can potentially earn from victories in the game.
Okay.
And that's kind of how it's sort of tailored to the crypto side of things, while allowing, you know, a regular. Okay, so let me rewind for a second. When we were creating the game, the one thing I told them basically was that if we're going to make this game, the only way that I'm going to be involved is if this is a game for gamers. So like, we can't be building a game for people in the crypto world. Right now, it's just not enough people,
Right.
and it won't be sustainable long term. Like, if we want to compete with the likes of the Hearthstones or the Magics, we need millions of players, you know. And like, typical crypto project up to that point was like 10,000 NFTs. And if you needed like 30 of them to build a deck or whatever, like, forget about it. You know, your player base is minuscule. So we can't just cater to those people. And so, you know, what we decided to do was create this free to play game, but the sort of NFT crypto side of things, in which you can earn while playing, is only accessible to the people who engage with NFTs. And of course, there's going to be some onboarding. So if you're a free to play player, you know, there's some chances for you to get some NFTs, and maybe then you can parlay those NFTs into more prime and get more NFTs. And I think like it's a pretty safe, innocuous way of getting people who may not understand crypto or NFTs or any of that stuff into the ecosystem at a very low risk.
I think that's great, man. You know, one of the largest hesitations that I have about projects and their sustainability in the long run is their like that members only mentality, right? And like you said, there's not enough people right now in the Web3 space to do something like that. And so it's really beautiful that you've thought about that. I have to ask you, you started so early. You've built out something that's, you know, so intricate, and who do you look to in this space? Do you have like a mentor or maybe like an industry role model in Web3?
I'm not the right. I'm definitely not the right guy to ask, because, like I said, I don't deal with a lot of the Web3 stuff. But and they might have an answer. But I honestly think that, like, I know this lot of people, and like I said before, we've worked in startups, you know, and in those previous startups, even, we touched crypto. And really, what it was is just like, we love new tech. So like, it could have been crypto. It could have been AR, VR, you name it, right?
Sure.
I think we like at that old startup, we had a bunch of, you know, we were a bartering app, and we had a bunch of Oculus headsets at the startup, just because it was like some crazy tech. We were just like, what is this insanity? I mean, I still have, I'm pointing up there, like you can see, I still have my like V1 Oculus headset when like before it was wireless and before all that. And we just had those around because we all just love insane technology, right? And so I think these guys really just want to play in that world. And so, yeah, I don't know that they have heroes in that regard. It's more just like, hey, what is this new technology and what can I do with it?
Well, I'll tell you what, that was the whole reason that I got interested in crypto. And I have a really crazy story that kind of solidified me being in this space. And it has to do with Parallel Alpha. So I bought 3 or 4 cards before you guys airdropped your, this was like, I don't know, maybe April of last year, May of last year. And then I guess if you were an early adopter, you got airdropped some stuff. And so I was out of town, and I woke up one morning, I look in my wallet, and I've got all these NFTs, and I was like, what is this? And I was kind of early at the time, but I had seen people, what I knew is on OpenSea that if you had a bid for something, it usually was half the price or 2/3 the price of what it was actually selling for. Sure. And so I look at my OpenSea, and I was still trying to understand if this was real. I'd seen people make a ton of money, and like were saying some stuff, and I just hadn't experienced that yet. And I looked down, and I had like a 3 ETH offer when crypto was at, or Ethereum was over 3,000. It might have been at 3,500 at that point. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a second. I thought something was wrong. I thought that my wallet got hacked originally. And then I looked at it, and I just put it up for 6 Ethereum, and it sold within like 30 seconds. And I looked at my thing and I was like, I was shaking. I was freaking out. I was like, holy shit. And then I went, oh my God, I sold this thing too cheap. It was like a 1 of 3 art card. But
Oh wow,
that
yeah.
was like the biggest crypto win I ever had. And it was based off of a free airdrop that I got. And it literally like just blew my mind that that could happen. And so what I did is I went and swept the floor because I was like, oh, I can sweep the floor now. And I bought, you know, all kinds of NFTs. But yeah, I don't know how that was. It was just more of this was new tech. And that's how I got into it, was try to understand what this was. And the more I learned about your guys' project, I related it more to like a new Star Wars. That's how I thought about it in my head. I was like, this is so sick. And I could see a storyline being built out. I could see long-term, like, you know, cards and merchandise and a whole franchise being built out of something like this. And because it was in Web3 and it was new, I was just like, wow, this is really cool. You guys did get some venture funding pretty quick. And I'm assuming that you guys have plans, you know, for the future and are looking at stuff. What does the future look like for Parallel Alpha, like long term?
Well, so there's a couple things you mentioned there that I think that are just interesting to sort of touch on. I think our most expensive assets to date, or the ones that have sold for the most, have all been given away for free. So all of the assets that we gave to people for free initially are the ones that have ended up selling for the most, which is somehow I don't know, that's insane to me, I guess, but like also
that's
very
beautiful.
cool.
I always say that
it was
there's
23.
no better.
It was 23 Ethereum after that for what I sold. I was like, holy shit.
Well,
Yeah.
Next time, talk to our buddy here, Mr. Gon, and ask him where this should really be valued at. But yeah, I think there's no greater utility than providing cash, putting cash in your community's pocket. So beautiful.
Sorry, go ahead. We didn't cut you off.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things. I mean, I'm going to tell this story and my buddy's probably going to kick me for it. And I don't usually talk about...
These are the stories we like to hear.
Yeah. I don't usually talk about markets or anything, but so I think you're probably talking about a prime key that you got from the PS15 sale, I guess, which is crazy that you were in there from the beginning. Thank you for supporting us at that point. But my buddy got an asset in that sale, got airdropped the prime key. And as it was going up, I was just like, I had no idea what to expect. Okay. And, you know, it was hitting 2-3 ETH, and I messaged him. I actually messaged 2 buddies, and I was like, look, these things are steadily climbing. Keep an eye on it. You know, I'm not telling you to sell. I'm not telling you not to sell. I have no idea what's going to happen, because I still to this day have no idea why anything is valued at what it's valued at. And I don't just mean for Parallel. I just mean for everything in this
the club.
Marketplace. But I'm just like, just watch it, please. Okay. Like, because I want you guys to win in whatever regard that is for you. Right. And one of the buddies was away for the weekend, and he's like, shh, can we swear?
Yeah, do your thing.
Oh, he's like, fuck, I don't have my ledger or whatever. I'm fucked. He was like, I want to sell. Fuck. And my other buddy was like immediately sold at like 3 ETH or whatever. And you know, flash forward a couple days, my buddy's back from his vacation. He gets his ledger and he sees that it's gone up to like 7 or 10 ETH at this point. And he's just like, oh God, I'm so glad I didn't have it with me. And the other guy's just kicking himself. And I think it went like the high was like 30 some odd ETH.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And this buddy was just like, I mean, he's never said anything to me, but I could tell that he was like, I wish you'd never called me that day, basically. I tried to make it up for him. He and I are climbing buddies, and I financed the trip for us to go to California and climb in the mountains there. So I think that made up for it a little bit, but I do feel a little bad for that. As far as the financing is concerned, you mentioned that. One of the things that happened early on, and this isn't big financing, but it was a huge deal for us for many reasons, is Kalos reached out to somebody named Chad Hurley, who is one of the founders of YouTube, and he reached out to him on Twitter. He reached out to him on Twitter and said, "Look, we have this idea for a game, and I really think you need to hear about it." And somehow, to Kalos's credit, he was just like, "Sure, let me hear it." And we told him, and he was like, "You know what? I'm in." And that opened like a ton of doors for us. Not just like, it's not like, I mean, he knew people for sure, but it wasn't just about that. It was just like, it gave us an air of legitimacy, because like, here is a guy who understands tech, who's attached his name to this thing.
Right.
And thanks to him, we were able to talk to some people, and we secured funding. And so now, what are our aspirations? I mean, obviously, first and foremost, and for me especially, like, all I want to do is build the card game that I've always wanted to see. And that's kind of what we're doing. And like I said, I want to make it okay. So I tell people very often when talking about a game that, like, it's kind of a mistake to refer to it as like a crypto game or a Web3 game or an NFT game, because every game that you can imagine out there uses things like databases, right? But no one's like, yo, we're a sequel game.
Right.
Check that out, right? Like, it's just the tech that you're using to build.
Yeah.
Right. So really, what we should just be saying is, we're a maybe decentralized game, or just a game. And so what I want us to do is be the first, flagship successful game built on this tech. But I don't want to be labeled like that. I just want us to be a fun game. But then after that, obviously, we've worked very hard in enriching the IP and the story and everything else around Parallel. And we'd love to see, some sort of content come out, whether it be animated show or a movie or live action or whatever, something to tell the story. I mean, we already have a comic book on in the works, and we have some very talented artists and writers and working on it, and some names people will recognize, I'm sure. And that will help tell the story. But like, really, we want to build a universe for Parallel.
So what do you think that it will take to get that mass adoption?
I mean, the same thing that it took for us to even get off the ground in the first place, which is really good timing, a little bit of luck, and a lot of fun. And to this day, I think that's something that we strive for. Whenever we do anything in the game, outside of the game, something Parallel related, the one thing we always ask ourselves is like, is this fun?
Right.
Like, is this something that I would want to consume if I wasn't a part of this project? Like, yes, we're all excited that all this stuff is coming, but at the end of the day, like, we don't need to talk to you about the like, inroads that we've made in integrating ERC 1155s or whatever into, like, no one cares about that shit. I mean, okay, no offense, I'm sure some people care about it, but like,
but it ain't me.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, at the end of the day, you can create all this novel tech, but like, really, is it fun? And that goes for almost anything. Like, the apps that we use, the reason we use them is, they are useful, but they're also intuitive. They're interesting. There are other people there, like, no one would use WhatsApp if no one else was using WhatsApp. I mean, I don't even use WhatsApp. I use Signal, but you know what I mean? Like, no one would use these pieces of tech if there weren't other people already inhabiting that space, right? So like, inherently, it just has to be fun. It has to bring people together. And that's kind of, what I want to do.
Beautiful. Could not agree more. I mean, that's how you create a habit-forming product, right? And get your consumers to continue to play the game and to tell other people about it, right? Even more so, word of mouth is obviously the most powerful marketing. But speaking of fun, whenever possible, we love to try and make the project a little personal. So you've been on the show for 30 minutes. We were chopping it up before that. You've got 5 different parallels here. We got to ask you, man, which one of these would the Web3 DJs fall into?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
He's gonna give us the big one.
I'm getting. Should I do you guys individually?
Sure, let's do that.
What?
If that, however you want to answer that.
Okay.
You can do Hofstra first.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting Markolian vibes for you. I feel like
for Hofstra.
Yeah, little run and gun, a little beat down.
Okay.
That's actually, I think, my favorite picture. Dude, the art is so dope. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, nothing even holds up to this in NFTs. Like, it's so good.
This one even kind of looks like you right here, Hofstra.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go. Old grizzled warrior.
All right, what about Sticky? Where you at, Sticky?
Let me think about this.
The
I'm
art.
gonna say that you are maybe, I don't know, maybe Cathari.
All right, let's give them a look here. Oh, very nice. Seems like are they like the science and technology individuals here?
Science and tech, they're all about gene sequencing and creating the ideal soldier for the ideal environment.
So, it's interesting. He's a data scientist, and I own a genetic testing laboratory. So maybe it's
And
flipped,
yeah, and I'm the product of gene sequencing, so I think this might be
but
right
There
up
you
my
go.
alley. Yeah, this is great.
so
Very nice.
so what about, okay, so you guys are built on Ethereum, and sometimes that's maybe not the best thing if you have lots of transactions, you have to do a lot of stuff. Do you see that the merge benefiting, or is it going to change anything, or are you guys going to stay on Ethereum long term for
I
what?
mean,
It's probably hard to answer, but
yeah, that is an excellent question. I'm, again, probably not the right person to answer, but I will say this. I know that we're investigating a number of solutions for that, because obviously, moving things around in a card game, buying, selling, trading, etc., is important, and
Right.
just earning new cards and all the other on-chain stuff. And I am privy to some of the conversations, and I will say that we are investigating alternative ways of doing things, both outside of Ethereum, but on Ethereum. I can't really speak too much about it, but a few of the members of our team have devised potential super novel ways of doing interesting things on Ethereum that will be, that will keep the sort of amount of transactions required at a minimum.
Okay.
And I can't really say more than that, but if it
Sure.
works out, it'll be super exciting. And it's probably one of those things that, again, if we pull it off, there'll be a bunch of other people, knocking on our door, trying to get their hands on the tech, which I think would be amazing.
Yeah, gotta feel good to be the trailblazers.
Absolutely.
so outside of Parallel Alpha, what is your favorite game to play? I mean, you sound like you're a diehard gamer. Like,
Oh, that is a great question. And it for me, it changes based on the day, but the game that I keep returning to, and it is a super old game, although it got an update I think this year or last year, and it's not a card game, so sorry to disappoint, is a game called The Binding of Isaac.
The Binding of Isaac.
It's
Yeah,
one I will be
Computer game?
writing down.
it started out as a flash game and then eventually became a whole big thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Super Meat Boy. But the creator of that, it's an indie game.
That was my
is a
nickname
rogue
in high school.
Super Meat Boy. I love
Yeah.
it. It is a roguelite. So, okay. Let me caveat this by saying I have a obviously this job takes up a lot of time, but I have a young child as well,
Okay.
and so I don't have as much time to invest in the Elden Rings and the whatever that I used to, and I feel like those games take no longer. Like you have to sit down for at least an hour to really immerse yourself in that stuff, and hopefully longer. So
Right.
my only hope is either playing games like NBA or FIFA or something like that, where it's a match by match basis, or a lot of roguelites. You can either make your way through and repeat, in about a half an hour time span, 40 minutes, somewhere in there, or you die and then you have to start again. And so a game like Hades or a game like The Binding of Isaac are games that like I'm completely obsessed with. Then of course Hearthstone Battlegrounds is a big one. But I did play Elden Ring and I enjoyed that too. I mean, part of my job now is I have to keep up with the video game industry. So
Right. Most definitely.
I have a pretty good excuse. I got to say sorry, honey. It's work.
Right. And it's kind of interesting you would say that because one of the metas that we're seeing in the NFT space right now is people transitioning from the traditional, okay, you have to pay this much, you have to get on the whitelist and buy my NFT to be part of the project, to free mints. And I think previously, if we go back a little bit, we just saw that happen with video games as well, right? Fortnite would have been the first one that comes to my mind, but that was huge. It was a free game that anyone could play, and then you would buy things to enhance your character in the game. And then Apex Legends came along and did that, and now there's a number of games that are doing that.
Sure.
Multiverses would be the most recent one that I've gotten into with my friends, which is kind of like a Super Smash Bros, but it's like Warner Brothers version of that.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that is really interesting that like it is part of your job. You have to stay up to date with that. So how do you go about that researching new games? It's actually, as a matter of fact, why don't you kind of tell us like what does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, I mean,
Is there
I
such
laugh because
thing, right?
there are no typical days anymore. I mean, it is meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Certainly, luckily we have some time blocked off for gaming, both playing our game and testing our game and whatever. But I also blocked off some time for myself personally to, explore what's new on Steam, see what people are talking about as far as uh, PlayStation or Xbox or something like that. I'm not really a social media person. In fact, like the first time I ever got Twitter was for this podcast. I
Right.
didn't engage with Twitter before that, but social media is very handy. You see what games people are talking about. Obviously, YouTube's amazing to see uh, where the because gaming lives on things like Twitch and YouTube, and just see what's popular, what people are watching, what people are streaming, what people are making content for. Um, and that's really kind of how I keep myself up to date with this stuff. But yeah, a typical day is a lot of meetings, some game playing, some people telling me, "Oh, this card's too strong, this card's too weak, buff this, nerf this, whatever." And most people have no idea what they're talking about. But the game is good when people are complaining about the cards.
Right.
If it
For
was
Mhm.
sure.
bad, they wouldn't care. Um, and so there's a lot of that. Obviously, dealing with our Discord and our mods, and I'm routinely while I'm working, doing light work, I'm inhabiting our Discord, and we have some voice chats in which is open to the public where people can, um, join in and talk to us, ask us questions. So there's always that as well. But yeah, it is a lot of decisions, and now, I mean, when we first started, it was pure game design, but now it's more about managing people and helping enable the all stars that we've sort of hired to take up the mantle for us. So like as an example, my team, I have Carson, Alex, and Connor, and they all come from various art and gaming backgrounds. And thanks to them, and they're on the podcast as well. But thanks to them, like mainly, I just make sure that they can do what they need to do, as opposed to being able to do any design work myself. I take the meetings so they don't have to. Basically, I'm their meeting shield.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
wish I had a meeting shield.
If
Yeah.
you want to learn more about it, it looks like the latest episode on the podcast is actually about the games of 2022 and beyond. So if you want to hear more about that, check out the podcast. Well, I just want to say, really appreciate you coming on, talking to us about the project. Before we wrap, is there anything that you would like to tell people about Parallel Alpha or any sort of update of things that they can expect in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we still have a few pack drops before the game comes out, so it's
Nice.
never too late to jump in on that. Parallel.life. I don't know the exact schedules, but the best place for information is our Twitter and our Discord, so check those out. Obviously, listen to podcasts like you guys said, but really just hang out in our Discord and get to know what's going on. Chat with people, chat with me. Like I said, I'm usually hanging out in the voice there. And yeah, just follow along the progress, because our Kalos is he's very big in developing out in the open. So like we routinely release things on our Twitter and in our Discord that is work in progress.
Oh, nice.
Unlike a lot of games that are just like, here's the polished end state. There's
Mhm.
a lot of like thought experiments, and here's something we're thinking about in the future, and here's some mock-ups, like those videos that you just passed. If you scroll up a little bit, yeah, like these things are just like some ideas of us looking ahead at what could happen should the NFTs take off. Like maybe there are pieces for another game that will drop people or something like that. And so yeah, if you want to know more, just kind of hang out with us and see what's going on. So like, yeah, I mean, this is just like a thought experiment that he had had us visualize. And the idea is like maybe the cards also I mean, we're already creating 3D objects for all of the cards, or a lot of the cards. maybe those 3D objects can then be used as pieces of another game, or part of what we're calling the avatar program, and I don't want to get into all of that because I don't know all the details. I'm more of the game guy, but yeah, there's just a lot to take in. And if you're like a real crypto altcoin, whatever kind of guy, there's a you were saying to me earlier that you were reading our papers. There's a whole bunch of papers you can read and learn about the tech and all this stuff. And it's all there for you if you want. We joke that it's kind of like Fight Club. Your level of involvement is determined by you. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I could not have said it better myself. And actually, I think that's a really great opportunity for anybody who's at a number of different levels of engagement, right? You have your consumers who want to be in this, and this is their life, right? Like any video game. Then you've got the casual player. And so it's awesome that you have that opportunity to kind of like dictate your own personal engagement. I do want to say, again, like Hofstra said, thank you so much for joining the show. We have the link to everything about Parallel Alpha as well as everything about your podcast in our video description. Remember, if you're watching this and you enjoyed this type of content, the number one thing that you can do for either of us here would be to tell a friend about it. Otherwise, make sure that you go subscribe to their podcast, to our YouTube and Twitter. Make sure you hit that follow button, hit that like, subscribe, comment. Let somebody else know about it. I think that is really it for me. Hofstra, did you have anything else?
I don't, man. I again really appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit more. Definitely following along. I have no intention to sell anything that I got, man. I'm just super pumped on, like, I don't even play games. That's the funniest part about this. Like, I don't play games. I just love the freaking art and the project. And so I just keep buying these things. And right now, I think, like, when you're talking about making it accessible, it's super accessible. If you look at the NFT market, if you want to get in on a dope project at a reasonable price, like, you can scoop some of these right now that, you might not be able to get in at this price down the road. So outside of that, thank you very much. You guys have a great evening, and we'll talk to you later.
Like, comment, and subscribe. All right. Guys. Yeah. Thanks again.